You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show. The preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. Chris Voss here from the ChrisVossShow.com, the ChrisVossShow.com. Welcome to the big show, my family and friends. We certainly appreciate you guys coming by the show today and sharing it all with us. Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, please turn your attention to the center ring. Welcome to the big show. As always, we have the most amazing authors and minds on the show. People that will make you brilliant, smarter, so that you can walk around and be as braggadocious as you want as to how intelligent you are more than the rest of the populace. No, don't lord around that way, but in your own mind, you can self-suffice some of your narcissistic ego by sharing and listening to the Chris Voss Show. Go to refer your friends and family, I guess is what we're saying. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, youtube.com/Chris Voss, linkedin.com/Chris Voss, and over there on TikTok, Chris Voss 1. We're trying to be cool, and it's not working because we're old. But we're trying to keep up, so check that out as well. He is the author of the newest book that just came out November 8th, 2022. Gary S. Berger is on the show with us today. His book is called Einstein, the Man and His Mind. He had both. Clearly, I only have one, which is my man, but there's no mind. But we'll be talking about this amazing, beautiful book that he has put together, and we're going to have him brought right on the show. Gary, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm great. How are you, Chris?
I am excellent, my friend. Welcome to the show. Congratulations on the new book. Give us a .com where people can find you on the interwebages in the sky.
Well, the book is described. There's some photos, videos, and ways to see this book at the website Einstein - that's a hyphen, themanandhismind.net.
There you go. So what motivated you on to write this book? Is this your first book? What motivated you on to write this book? Well, I mean, collect the photographs in it too, the visual aspect of it.
What motivated me was I have thought about Albert Einstein for decades. When I was growing up, I heard a lot about him. I'm at the age where I was alive when he was alive. Mm-hmm. And when I first heard about relativity in school, I really didn't understand what it was. And, I kind of more or less forgot about it. But later in life, in reading, about Einstein, I decided, hey, I really want to understand. I'm not a mathematician. I'm not a physicist, but I want to understand why he's so famous. Mm-hmm. What did he actually do? And so, over the course of about the last 25 to 30 years, I began collecting photographs and other documents, by Einstein, mm-hmm. And in studying them and, trying to learn, reading, watching videos, just trying to learn what I could. And then over these years, I realized, hey, I've got probably the largest private collection of original Einstein items anywhere. And I decided, hey, I can share this with other people and let them see and learn from it as well. So that was the concept behind this book. To me, it's different from other books about Einstein because it is based on photographs and other images, mm-hmm. Accompanied by a pretty concise text that explains, who he was and what his life was about from age 16 until his death at age 76. So
there you go.
Yeah, it's in chronological order. It's basically, I would describe it as a coffee table type of book because it's oversized. It's quite heavy.
Mhm.
In order to get the reproductions right, the weight of the paper and all of that, was involved in the design. But I think anybody who's interested in, even curious in any way about Einstein or his discoveries, or really the way he thought, that's what interested me. How did he come to these realizations that nobody had ever dreamed of before? And
Mhm.
that now, we see in our current life. I mean, it brought us into the modern age of physics.
Mhm.
So that was kind of the motivation, was to just share this information and the enjoyment, the real pleasure of getting to know him as an actual man, and how his mind worked. That's
Mhm.
key. That was what interested me the most.
There you go. And it's a 4.4-pound book. It's a giant tome, very large, and beautifully done. It's visually epic to look at, and it's quite interesting. So, tell us a little bit about your biography, your background, and what brought you to this point, or some of your journey, so we can get to know you a little better.
Well, my background. I mean, I'm not a physicist or a historian.
Mhm.
I'm a doctor,
Mhm.
and uh, my previous work, I published quite a lot, but it was all in medicine. This is really the first time in my life that I really, decided I wanted to write about this man that, to me, is one of the most incredible people who ever walked the earth.
Mhm.
Um, Again, it's like, I think what differentiates us from the other animals is our ability to think logically and also creatively. And he had this capacity far beyond, most ordinary people.
Yeah.
So, as I mentioned earlier, I think that when I was a teenager, I got to know a physicist who was a friend and a student of Einstein's.
Mhm.
And so, I always had this kind of curiosity about Einstein. Why, what, what, what was it? I know he's a genius. He's known all over the world, but what was it that he actually did? And that's what got me started on this project of learning.
There you go. And so with these photographs, I mean, do you own the copyright to them? You've been collecting them over the years?
I own a copyright to the book.
Mhm.
The photographs, some of the photographs, the copyright is owned by the original photographer.
Mhm.
We trace down for every image that we used in this book. We trace down the ownership, and but most of it, yeah, I would say probably the majority of the photos in the book are mine in
Mhm.
terms of copyright.
There you go. And there's a lot of other things that are in here, like his notes, that are very detailed, or, things that he's thinking about, things that kinda give you an insight to the glimpse of his mind. Tell us about some of those as well. So there's pictures of him and then pictures of his work.
Yeah, actually, I'll show you. Just, you mentioned the size and weight of the book. It's a big book,
It is quite large.
as you can see,
It's
but
beautiful, though.
it had to be this way in order to be able to reproduce, like photographs as they
Uh-huh.
were taken, as you can see.
Wow.
And even so, with this size book, there were a few of the photographs that we had to shrink in size, but everything else is true to actual size. So,
Wow. So you can actually read his notes and the size that they would be, and get a good be able to, kind of read us, because yeah, some of the notes and stuff, if you shrunk them down to a very small book, the handwriting and stuff that's on them would be probably harder to read.
Yeah, and we kind of intersperse. You asked about different things, like we intersperse with. When I say we, my co-author was Michael DiRuggiero, uh, who owns the Manhattan Rare Bookstore, and he helped me over the years assemble this collection. But
Mhm.
we kind of sprinkled in various anecdotes and little vignettes that make a point. For example, talking about Einstein's creativity and the way he thought.
Mhm.
One of the things he said was that if he were not a physicist, he would have been a musician.
Oh, wow.
And there's a picture of him in the book, kind of in his study. He looks like he's silently, leading the orchestra as he's listening to music on a stereo. And he said, I think in music. I live my daydreams in music.
Really?
So it's kind of an interesting, just one little point. But I think that has to do with, again, this idea of creativity. Um, Another thing that's included in the book was his son, Hans Albert, describing that whenever Einstein kind of came up against a problem that he was stuck and couldn't make any headway, he would resort to playing his violin. And after that, the problem would be solved. So he thought in this imaginative way. He created thought experiments, but he had this relationship between his ideas and music. I mean, that's kind of an amazing thing.
Yeah. And it's an interesting balance to his mind and stuff, and what went into it. Being able to look at the world in a different angle. I think that's why people, I mean, one of the reasons people respect something like him is his ability to look at the world through a different lens than, what was accepted, and see things and kind of see into the future, and understand the world. And I think that's why people have always been so um enthralled with him, really, when it comes down to it.
So yeah, there's another little passage in the book that's interesting with a picture of him in California, uh, and he went to see the opening show of a movie of Charlie Chaplin, and Chaplin was there. He and Chaplin exchanged some words, which have been quoted. Chaplin saying, or he said to Chaplin, you're amazing. You don't say a word, and the whole world understands you. And
Mhm.
Chaplin's response was, but your glory is even greater. The world doesn't understand a thing of what you say, yet they love you. So, it kind of points out what Einstein wrote about was complex. And
Mhm.
most people, even his peers, the physicists of the day, really didn't understand all of it. So it took many years, before he was given recognition. Um, there's a description. This is now 1 week before the centennial of his Nobel address,
Mhm.
and that's a whole interesting story in itself. Because you would think that he would have won the prize easily, and for his theory of relativity, which is what his greatest contribution was, or
Yeah.
what he's most well known for. But
Mhm.
that never happened.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's just a lot of he had a very dedicated life,
Mhm.
to his work uh, and his thought, and his imagination of what the world really, how the universe really was.
Do you think what do you think are going to surprise some people in the book? Maybe things that haven't been seen before, or maybe things that people are going to take away from the book and be like, "Wow, that was amazing. I didn't really know about that."
I think one thing people will take away from this book is not just a understanding the essence of his scientific contributions, but that get an emotional response from looking at him as he develops an age, through the years. I mean, when I look at some of these photographs, and you can see his emotions coming through, his ability to focus. Many of the best photographs, in my opinion, in the book, were taken by photographers where they just were in his presence long enough where he began to ignore them and went on about, pulled out his pad and pencil and started working on problems. And they took these candid photographs of him, and you see the intensity of his concentration, this kind of faraway look in his eye, like, he's in another world, and it's captured in these photographs, and you see the emotional toil in his face over the years of war, his dedication to pacifism, his changing his stance on that when he became a U.S. citizen and was concerned that the Nazis might develop an atomic bomb. He was instrumental in bringing to the attention of President Franklin Roosevelt the theoretical possibility, that this could be done. And that was something that he regretted severely, when the bomb was actually dropped. You see these things, I think, that's what comes across to me about this book that's different from any book that's ever been written before that I know of. And is that you actually get to appreciate who, not only, what he did, how he thought, but who he was as a person.
There you go. Here's an example of this where it's here he is. There's some notations here where he's working on problems relating to understanding gravitational forces, quantum theory, and the implications of general theory of relativity. I think one of his things is off. I see what the problem is here. No, I don't. I'm not Goodwill Hunting. But you've got these beautiful papers that, and so you can see, I think the point of intrigue really is you can see his mind, and he's working on this stuff, and the simplicity of it is extraordinary. And he's got these math equations there. He's clearly using that I flunked in calculus and could never figure out. So he's definitely probably a grade or two ahead of me on that. But no, I know that there was we've had people on the show that talked about his love interests and relationships and romances. I know there's a lot of love letters that he wrote, and he's very eloquent. And I think what was interesting about, you talk about the emotion of the man. I would always have assumed that Einstein would be like, this very logical guy, like, I don't know, who's the Sherlock Holmes, elementary, my dear Watson.
Yeah.
And here he is emotional. Do you get any love letters making in the book, or is that kind of a separate thing?
Not the love letters, but Einstein, was definitely, he was a human being,
Yeah.
He wasn't perfect. He had, personal issues like any of us do, but that did not detract from his ability to enter a mental state, I would say, where the rest of the world kind of just disappeared, and he was in his own mind thinking about the problems. This is how he would actually came to be able to solve these physical problems, was to simplify them down into thought experiments. And there are a number of examples, given in the book of those thought experiments and what they showed. And he was a very humble, unassuming person. He didn't spend, I don't think he spent any time in his life, trying to impress or please other people. As he aged, he kind of simplified his life down to the point where we have a picture of him at his citizenship ceremony, when he became a U.S. citizen. And the photographer took a picture kind of angling from the floor up that accentuates the fact that he wasn't wearing socks. Things like that were typical. He didn't bother cutting his hair. That was a waste of time. No need for barbers. One leather jacket solved the problem of, clothing. This was his lifestyle. He was basically a simple, humble person. He was very dedicated to justice, but I would say again, going back to what got me interested, I think, was the science part of it, because, and this I think relates, quite a bit to our current day. What he really was a seeker of truth. And
really,
the idea that there are facts, there are universal truths, and that they really matter. And, that's, to me, like one of the highest callings, one can have, is to be a seeker of truth. And that's nothing deviated him from that and from expressing what he believed, was to be true.
There you go. I mean, truth is always important, because if you don't have truth, well, then you don't have anything, really. I mean, when you think about it, right?
Yeah. And, of course, even in his day, there were people who had alternate facts. When he departed Germany, as the Second World War, was beginning, he was able to get out of Germany before it. And because he was a pacifist and he rejected German citizenship, and he spoke out against, the warlike factions. There were there was a group called the 100 scientists who all signed a proclamation, stating that Einstein's theory of relativity, wasn't true. It was
Really?
yeah. Oh, yeah. And his comment was pretty simple when he said it would only take one, to prove me wrong.
Wow.
So, having 100 people saying something's not true doesn't make it not true.
That's what I tell everybody when I'm trying to convince someone I'm right. So there you go. Well, it's a beautiful tome, and there's a lot of stuff in it. I think people are going to take away from it just some really great things. And any last thoughts or suggestions you want to make before we go out?
Well, I just think, if you're interested in Einstein, this is something that I think you'll enjoy. It's not a book to be necessarily read from beginning to end. It's more one to browse through and think about, as you look at the images, they say a picture's worth 1,000 words. You know, you that what you take away is thinking about what that was, so I think for somebody who's curious about Einstein, this is a great introduction.
There you go. There you go. And a beautiful one as well. I mean, it makes a great not only read but and visual aspect, but a great coffee table book. So if you want to, impress everybody at how smart you are, you can be like, hey, check out what I got here.
Take a look at this. That's true. Einstein always is kind of synonymous with genius. So yeah, if you say that you really understand Einstein, I guess you have to be pretty smart.
Yeah. I'll go through his notes and I'll see if I can figure out his math and all that stuff, which I'll do.
Good luck.
I'll try and be like, what's his face in Good Will Hunting, where he goes and solves the math board thing. So there you go. Well, it's been wonderful to have you on the show, Gary. We really appreciate it. Very insightful. And what a wonderful story. Give us your .com so that people can find you on the interwebs, please.
Einstein the man and his mind.net.
There you go. There you go. So thanks for coming on the show. We really appreciate it. Thanks, Mountains, for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, youtube.com/Chris Voss, linkedin.com/Chris Voss, all those crazy places on the internet that we are at. Pick up the book, order wherever fine books are sold, and share it with friends. The more we know, the smarter we are. Einstein, The Man and His Mind, came out November 8th, 2022 by Gary S. Berger and Michael, is it DiRuggiero?
DiRuggiero. Mm-hmm.
There we go. Anyway, thanks so much for tuning in. Be good to each other. Stay safe. And we'll see you guys.